I'm going to go ahead and read again what was in the Davis Enterprise about this story, and then I'm going to invite Eric Baldwin up to read you the story. Everyone has dreams. Just ask Brett Riley. In Dreaming in Stereo, Riley recounts a youthful foray into the dreamscape of rock music stardom. He founded 2 bands and remained steadfastly ambitious when even only one member could read music. Riley says the story of anyone who has ever been in an audience and wished they were on the stage, of everyone who has ever dreamed. Eric?
Dreaming in Stereo by Brett Riley. In the 1980s, I helped found 2 rock bands, neither of which ever played a complete song. Only one member could read music. We learned a few chords. This level of failure, while not necessarily unprecedented, would be difficult to surpass. In those heady teen years, too young to vote or buy beer, each of us carried the weight of enormous ambitions: fame, money, sex, altered consciousness, legendary art, until our skinny legs collapsed and the bands drifted apart. My first band, a gaggle of neighborhood kids, never cobbled together a full set of instruments. We loved 80s hair bands and their precursors: Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest, Deep Purple, Bad Company, Nazareth, Kiss. So my friend Vinny bought a used electric guitar. Now mine, a no-name brand with a whammy bar and an amp that rattled like someone had dropped a penny in it, came from a garage sale. Vinny took a few lessons from some older kid who decided he should start his musical career with the opening riff to Kiss's War Machine. After Vinny learned it, he taught it to me, but we could only play it on the top string. Still, we practiced that one, not quite a riff, as if it were our ticket to Madison Square Garden. Once, we sat on my carport, plucking away at some tuneless song. We were improvising on the spot, like the Grateful Dead's untalented third cousins. When a couple of our buddies ambled over. Hey, play something, one of them said. What do you want to hear? Said Vinny. Play some Kiss. Okay. Vinny played the War Machine riff. The kid frowned. That sucked. Still, we dreamed. We blasted rock and roll on our boom boxes, played air guitar, lip-synced the lyrics, banged our groupies by the dozens in our imaginations. My buddy Gene played bass. Vinny's kid brother got assigned the drums, whether he wanted them or not. Time passed. Vinny and I played baseball. Baseball occupied most of my summers. All of us discovered girls and drinking with girls. Soon the band and our miserable jam sessions faded away. Still, Gene and I kept dreaming. Once he played a passable bass line from Kiss's Tears Are Falling. What was up with all the Kiss? I have no idea. Maybe we appreciated the idea of hiding behind a ton of makeup because we sucked. 2 other guys in our class wanted to join. One of them longed to play lead guitar. Peter. He drummed in the school's marching band, meaning he was more legit than the rest of us. Now we just had to learn our instruments, write some songs, and get rich. Nothing to it. I played rhythm guitar and sung lead. My qualification for the guitarist gig? I didn't electrocute myself when I plugged my axe in. I sang because I could scream louder and at a higher pitch than any of their guys. Whether I could hold a tune or carry a tune, that never came up. This was hard rock, not Glee Club. I even had some range back then. You'd never find me singing in a church choir or the national anthem at the Super Bowl, but I could pass muster on your average metal song. I I practiced vocals in my room, and I signed up for honest-to-God guitar lessons from an honest-to-God guitarist. That band could have changed music history were it not for 3 problems. The utter lack of any music scene in our community, our laziness, and an absence of talent so large, so profound, that it might have generated a black hole and sucked up the abilities of nearby musicians. Let's play the school talent show, Gene suggested. Oh, what should we play? Someone asked. That was optimistic because no one could play it. How about Beth? More kiss. And I was confused because Beth is a piano ballad. There would be little for Peter, Gene, or Ace to do, and we lacked a pianist. We called a friend, an actual guitarist and sometimes keyboardist in a band that could actually play. Gene asked him if he would perform Beth with us. I'm not Liberace, he said, and he hung up. I didn't want to sing Beth anyway. You couldn't headbang to it. You feel silly striking a dramatic rock and roll pose. You could hardly prance and gyrate while a piano tinkled out in the background. We never signed up for that talent show. Besides, we had bigger problems. For instance, getting all 4 of us in a room all at once proved nearly impossible. I played sports and took college prep classes, and I had a girlfriend. Plus, my parents dragged me to church 3 times a week, including Sunday or Wednesday nights. The school bag with all of its practice and travel demands took up most of Peter's time. Ace didn't seem busy, yet often we could not locate him. Someone told me he was dabbling in drugs. I never saw any definitive proof, but we didn't hear from him for days at a time. Gene had other interests, though I'm not exactly sure what they were. We still knew exactly 0 songs. Now, Gene could play Tears Are Falling, but no one else could. Peter never learned any drum parts to a rock song, as far as I know. I never even saw his kit fully assembled. As for me, I found that playing guitar was hard. I learned 2 chords in 2 weeks. Then in my 3rd week, my teacher showed me a grand bar chord that turned my fingers into a pretzel. If the 3rd chord I learned made my hand look like I jammed it into an industrial press, what would week 4 do? Or week 40? Am I supposed to strum all 6 strings, I'd wonder, or just the ones I'm actually using? No one had ever told me, and thinking it was a stupid question, I didn't ask. Each time I missed the correct string, my gaze would drift to the window. Out there, my friends played backyard football and rode their ATVs. They spent hours on video games and plotted trips to the bootlegger's house for contraband whiskey. Life was passing me by. So why was I putting myself through this anyway? In school, I made straight A's without much effort. In sports, I always made the team. When I wrote something, people liked it. So when I did not prove to be a guitar prodigy within 3 weeks, my interest began to wane. Easier to put down the pick and stroll back into my comfortable world. The guitar stood upright in the corner, gathering dust, until my teacher, perhaps too busy to bother with me, or maybe sensing my deepening ambivalence, well, he took it back. No big deal, I thought. I can always try again later. Maybe it'll be easier next time. I didn't yet know that artistically expressing yourself well is difficult. And a major secret of success is simple perseverance. Doing the hard, tedious, maddening work that eventually leads to competence, perhaps even mastery. I didn't put in the work. Instead, whenever I listened to music alone in my room, I practiced my so-called singing. If I turned up my boombox loud enough It even masked my vocal flaws. I could tell myself I was still pursuing the dream without really committing. I've often thought about the day I put the guitar down for the last time. As a kid, I never believed adults' sermons about time. It passes so much faster when you're older. Well, that's crazy. An hour is an hour is an hour. A year is always a year. You shouldn't quit something you care about because over time it's hard to get back. Yeah. Right. I can do anything I want. I got decades in front of me, and nothing bad will happen. And I'll always have time and find time for the things I love. Now, only the very young or the very privileged actually can honestly believe such nonsense. The rest of us know, or learn the hard way, that calamities do happen to good, healthy, driven people all the time. That months often turn into decades. That and what David Foster Wallace called the day-to-day trenches of adult life. Time becomes more precious than any stone. I never considered my decisions' effects on the band. And I certainly never consulted them. Why would they mind? Plenty of bands get by with just one guitarist. We got together so sparingly that I had no idea that Ace had drifted into a weird world all of his own. At first, he had dedicated himself in ways that made us really believe we would one day read his interviews in Metal Edge and Rolling Stone magazine. He would set his alarm for 2 a.m. in practice on school nights. The problem lay in what he practiced. Solos published in guitar magazines. He could play the solo to, say, Crazy Train, but no other parts, and that left a rather noticeable hole in our performance. One night, as I brought my axe to Ace's house for practice, my instrument might have well have been a paperweight or a self-defense weapon because I leaned it up against a wall and forgot about it. Now, Peter's parents wouldn't let him come, so we tried to play some song with only Gene's questionable bass playing for rhythm. Did not go well. Imagine two people playing one song at different tempos in two different keys while a bewildered singer tries to match his middling voice to it all. In the middle of verse 2, Ace blasted a high-pitched screech, fell to his knees, and launched into a solo. I didn't even notice when I stopped doing what might have been called singing, and Gene dropped both his jaw and his bass in astonishment. Ace played the whole solo and made rock and roll face, a cross between intense concentration and chronic constipation. Afterward, he stood, smiling and sweating, waiting for us to tell him how great it was. Dude, Gene said. What the fuck? Didn't want to wait for the good part, man, Ace said. Gene and I went home, dazed. We didn't articulate it, but I think we both knew it was over. We sucked. And though we loved music and the dream, we lacked the commitment not to suck. This is the definition of the dreamer. Someone who covets the glory and won't bother with the struggle. And though none of us had the vocabulary to say so, I believe we felt comfortable alone in our rooms, glossing over our mistakes, accomplishing nothing of note but risking even less. And so we drifted apart. I hung out with Gene, who spent time with Peter, but we talked about the band less and less. In the summer before my senior year, my girlfriend and I got married. I had to quit the football team and get a part-time job. By then, Gene had dropped out of school. Rarely saw him. I waved to Peter in the hallway between classes and sometimes saw Ace puttering around, but our days as a band had ended. A few years later, after Gene and I reconnected, we sat around one night drinking and laughing about high school. One of us brought up the band. It was like that Bryan Adams song, Gene said. We got our first real 6 strings, but then you quit and Peter got married. I'm the one who got married. You were there, remember? Dreams die hard. Whenever I hear a song that gets my blood pumping, I daydream I'm playing in front of an adoring crowd. My voice never developed. I can still harmonize with the Eagles' live version of Seven Bridges Road. And passably match Ronnie James Dio on Heaven and Hell. My voice never cracks or disappears altogether. I don't cough and sputter and dash for my water bottle after one scream. I'm not overweight. And I can jump around the stage all night.